Yeah, g'day, Mark here, and welcome back to my channel. Now last week I was engraving some tool holders for my CNC lathe and I had some issues. Got some really good feedback from you guys, so this week I'm going to try and systematically apply the lessons learned from your advice and see if I can get better engraving. So from my last video, there was a lot of discussion on the run out of the system, and I was intending to measure it last week, but I simply ran out of time. So let's take a look at it now. Okay, that's interesting. There seems to be like a periodic error. So now I'm heading back up high, and then I do another rotation. It starts dropping back down. 80 microns of total run out. That's a lot. Right, let's take a look at how repeatable that setting is. So I've taken this out. I'll just reinstall it now. Right, different indicator this time. This one's reading in microns. So we had about 80 microns of run out last time we loaded it. Well, now it's 90. You can see that sort of periodicity where it changes based on which rotation it's on. So 110 max seen so far. And now we're back to the start. 1/10 of a millimeter. That's quite a lot. That's worse than it was before. I'll just remove it, reinstall it a third time, see what difference that makes. Right, third time. Oh wow. Straight up to 1/10 of a millimeter. Even worse. Whoa. That's really bad. 150 microns. Now loading and unloading them, one thing I did realize is that this double-ended D-Bit has a reasonably short shank, which is the full diameter of 4 millimeters. This collet is relieved about halfway down. So about to there. And therefore it will completely support the D-Bit as long as the D-Bit's inserted kind of right up to the face of the collet. However, I was sticking it out a bit further to enable me to put a clock on that straight portion. So I wonder whether that's part of the issue. Looking in my drawer, I do have a second 4 millimeter collet, so I'll just quickly load up the second one and see if it's any better than the first one. Okay, it's about the same as the best positioning I got out of the first one, about 80 microns of total run out. Right, well if both the 4 millimeter collets are similarly awful, what about 6 millimeter? This is high speed steel, but let's give it a go. Oh wow, that's way better. Okay, maybe it's not that much better, because about 60 microns of total run out. It's also weird that the periodicity of its error is different. It's almost like the shaft is not round and it's got 2 bumps per revolution. I just take it out, turn it around a bit and see how repeatable that is. So here we've got about 60 microns on this collet. Let's remove the collet and the cutter and take a look at the spindle taper and see what's contributing to that 80 microns of run out. Okay, 40 microns, that's a lot. Well, I just checked the manual. It gives a maximum run out at the taper of only 5 microns. So this spindle is 8 times worse. I wonder if this had a crash at one stage and it's got a slightly bent spindle. Well, seeing as my 6 millimeter collet appears to be the most accurate one, I'll just switch in this high-speed steel D-Bit and give it a freshen up. It's a bit blunt. Now I am curious whether this high-speed steel D-Bit does any different or better. I'll engrave a number with it. Other guidance I was given last week was to slow down my cutting speed substantially and also to try multiple shallower depths of cut. So let's just see how that's going to work out. Well, note to myself, have I ever heard of doing a test piece? Because that looks absolutely awful. I've pulled the D-Bit out, and sure enough, that tip got completely munted. However, I think I've done this cutter an injustice because that engraving is really deep. And the reason for that is a screw up from me, of course. This level here, which I milled down to, was set as my 0. Last time I set a work offset without having the tool offset G43 set. And because this tool is within 1 millimeter of the position of my touch-off tool, I didn't pick it up with my block test. So I've resharpened it, set G43, so I'm now using the tool offset, and I can set it relative to this block. I want to kind of sneak down and find the exact right depth, so I've set this 1/10 of a millimeter too high. This first pass, it shouldn't actually cut. So that's engraving nicely. Once those offsets are set correctly, this does actually cut quite a nice engraving. And yet this is the identical toolpath that was used on these parts. And it is made up of a bunch of G2 and G3 arc segments. So I really have no idea why it's suddenly coming out so faceted. Because that base is not perfectly level, I need to go a bit deeper. Well, comparing what I did with carbide to the one with high-speed steel, I think the carbide one cut a little bit cleaner. Now, instead of using D-Bit engraving cutters, there are a couple of other options. Stefan Gotteswinter told me to use a tiny ball end mill, and I've got it on order, but it's not here yet. So the other option I've got a lot of recommendations on is one of these, which is like a pyramid point sort of 3-flute cutter. This one's currently got a chipped tip, so let's go and freshen it up and see how that works. Right, I just eyeballed the indexing on that, so it won't be perfect, but it's nice and sharp again. Right, so that's what it looks like done with the triangle point versus done with a D-Bit. Although I think I did the D-Bit a little bit deeper, so seems reasonably similar. There's quite a bit of burring around both of them. That's probably the best I've done so far. Well, although I engraved that a little bit too deep, it actually came out quite nice. I think of all of the cutters so far, that pyramid one's doing the nicest job. So this number 8 is such an eyesore. I think I'll go outside with some hydrochloric acid and just strip off any of the black oxide out of there, and then weld it up, remachine that bit, and re-engrave it. I'm just doing this etching to make sure that the weld sticks better. I also thought of sandblasting, but I guess sandblasting just embeds sand in the surface. Remember, I had a problem with my TIG foot switch, and I thought it was the switch and they replaced it, but it turned out to be anytime you either turn on the machine or plug in the foot switch, you have to one time press it down completely. Until it beeps and blinks, and now it's paired the welder with the foot switch and should work. What I'm curious about is, was there nothing wrong with the old foot switch? So here's the original foot switch. Okay, this pedal was working. Well, I think it was well worth welding that up and redoing it because it does look a lot better now. Yeah, I think that's dialed in quite nicely now. Nice crisp letters, not too deep. So that's all of the new tool holders engraved. But what about my existing tool holders from Schaublin? I'd kind of like to number those as well. These are hardened and ground. I think I might just engrave them without trying to make that boss sort of feature. Stefan Gotteswinter did say that those pyramid style engravers work very well in hard material. So let's give it a go. I just about made a second number 12. Well, I'm happy with that. I'll do the other ones while I'm at it. Coming into the home stretch now, this is the only black tool holder I've got. It was sent to me by Robert up in Sweden. Well, I must say that for me, this Henninger spindle speed is actually quite a useful tool. Even if it does have a slightly bent shaft, at least with these pyramid style engraving bits, it's super convenient to just plug it in and use it. And I'm reasonably satisfied with the quality of the engraving. Now, other than the ugly faceted tool parts, yeah, I'm reasonably happy with how the engraving came out. And I'd say, at least with that slightly wobbly spindle, I prefer to use these pyramid style engravers and D-bits. Now the last task I've got associated with the engraving is to grind off the tool marks and bluing from the top surface. To start off with, I'll do this one where I welded up the dovetail because it ended up slightly different in dimensions than the others. Yeah, that's all right. I had to take quite a bit off because there was a misstart on that engraving boss there. Nice. Yeah, that dollies them up pretty well. So how do they all turn out? There's quite a bit of difference and variation from tool holder to tool holder with my engraving. Ideally, I probably should have done more test pieces and just nailed my procedure before I started engraving these, but I'm not that patient. This is fine. They're all easily legible, so I look forward to using them. I am really glad I took the time to engrave all my old tool holders as well. It's one of those jobs, if I hadn't done it now, I'd never have done it. And so I look forward to moving on and getting these finished. Well, there we have it. All the engraving of my tool holders is finished. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.